on this earth. MRINAL Sen said, "In the beginning, there were heaven and earth, and also stinking malarial swamp." This is how his mind worked. The quest for the aesthetics of MRINAL Sen cannot be bound by the fact that he was a Marxist, a leftist. MRINAL Sen can be found if we look into his sensitive soul that resonated with the millions who suffered poverty and lived with broken dreams, and his grounding in political truths and hard reality, constant self-questioning and evaluation of his own work, and reaching out for the pure core. His association with the leftist movement during his college days became a lifelong affair and propelled him towards People's Theatre movement. And he joined a circle that included Sholil Chaudhary, Ritik Ghotok, Rishikesh Mukherjee, and others.
That was the time when there was a lot of unrest in Calcutta, and I cannot just pull myself out of the atmosphere in which I grow, in which I weep, in which I get angry, So all that I did at that time, I wanted to point my accusing finger at the enemy outside. That was when I brought the physical reality very close to me. I used to bring the physical reality onto the screen.
At the Imperial Library, now known as National Library, he immersed himself in the study of literature, philosophy, politics, cinema, sociology, and aesthetics. He said, "I'm watching films like drinking tea." He said, "My first film was my undoing because it was made academically. Neel Akasher Niche was liked by the audience, but he dissected the film himself and said, 'Didn't you feel the lack of self-control, the weakness in the structure? Did the camera portray the times?' I'm saying this openly that all of it was not my mistake."
MRINAL Sen will continue to be relevant, not because he spoke only of those times, but he spoke in a way that was universal. And it's a sad fact that the issues that he's raised in his films continue to haunt us.
A man who assessed and reassessed his own cinematic creations and moved forward. On the way, he changed, demolished his own rules as he made a journey of self-discovery through films. He wanted to have a political core. He wanted a newer role for the camera and new editing techniques. He had no enthusiasm for linear storytelling. He believed in alternative structure, expression, and a new film language. After watching Baishe Shravan, he expressed his views very briefly. "I still love that film. After seeing it, I felt I would not have to say goodbye to filmmaking." In Baishe Shravan, he portrayed a village in the deep interiors with myriads of problems and touched upon the famine of 1943, deprivation, and the image of broken down humanity.
I think, they're spiritually like a father figure to me.
My first contact with MRINAL Sen was in terms of scolding.
In Indian and world cinema, an undeniable presence of MRINAL's political thinking is apparent. I make films. I make films about situations around me. And what is political and not political, that I do not know. You can make a relationship between a man and a woman politically. To make films politically and make political films are two different things.
I think anger is the driving machine of MRINAL Sen. When he makes his films, you can see the compassion for the characters that he's dealing with. So at heart, I think he's a deeply humanist person. He's a very compassionate person. Whether it's ideology or politics or any other context, his concern is always human beings.
To tackle the crisis in Bengali cinema, Mrinal Sen believed it was necessary to avoid casting stars and using extravagant elements in a film. He wanted to go beyond regional boundaries. He believed cinematic thoughts have to be fulfilled aesthetically with alternative making style. Mrinal Sen brought some unique and innovative structures to Indian cinema from the theatres of Europe and the new wave films of France. Some were the Brechtian effect, cinema verite style, and non-narrative films. In Bhuvanshom, in which deadpan irony and for didacticism are stunted by stuttering jump cuts, a non-diegetic voiceover, and freeze frames to deliver a plot the filmmaker wants to display. In the last scene, Mrinal Sen depicts Bhuvanshom's rebellion against corruption.
I think it's a very famous shot where I put my hands in and I laugh. I think I would lay the credit at this great celebrated director Mrinal Sen's door, though he didn't seem to be directing at all, you know. And if anybody else I would thank for that would probably be Utpal Dutt.
He did not look back since then. He has experimented with cinematic language with extraordinary aesthetics. In his making, we watch mind-blowing endeavors. Mrinal Sen always looked for his own logic. He said, if the narration style departs from the existing stereotypical style, then the complexion of the film gets a new dimension. A lot has been said time and again. That's why I feel departing from the existing linear structure is extremely significant. He says, after I make a film, I feel like collapsing, but then I wake up again.
वो माहौल ऐसा बनाते थे. He'd make sure that he created an atmosphere of creativity on the sets. So everybody, his DOP, his actors, his sound, all of them would get tuned to his own drama.
Mrinal Sen has expressed his political point of view in almost every one of his films. Calcutta 71, Mrinal Sen portrayed in celluloid the socio-political nuances of the time, poverty, exploitation, famine, and various political insurgencies, semi-fascist terror with their awful consequences. Interview represented unemployment in a strangely beautiful way through a whole new style of filming. Podatik, Mrinal Sen portrayed the tension of a fugitive political activist. Mrinal Sen's candid confession on Kolkata trilogy.
Mrinal I found astonishingly open. He would be amused when there was something funny that happened. He would incorporate ideas. He would ask us, what do you think? How would you like to do it? After first showing us how he would like it done, would say, okay, show me how you would do it. Which was wonderful because so far I'd only met directors who would say, show me how you would do it when they didn't have any ideas.
Mrinal Sen had lots to say. He was always eager to break the norms of cinema. He himself has explained the idea behind chorus. Multitudes, their fights, blend into one another. A musical movement is created. A concerted emotion, that is chorus. It is without all reasonable doubts that Mrinal Sen was the first political filmmaker in India. His films were not necessarily political, but he was always influenced by politically sensitive subjects rooted in the upheavals, livelihood of common people. Mrinal Sen invited debate, indulged in thesis, antithesis, and synthesis.
এই কাজ করতে জানতে পেরেছি যে এরকম একটা মানুষ যার ভেতরে যে এরকম সহৃদয়শীল মানুষ, মর্মস্পর্শী মানুষ, মলিন, পবিত্র এবং এত কাজ নিয়ে ভাবতো, কাজ পাগল মানুষ আমি খুব কম দেখেছি। মৃণালদা খুব বাস্তববাদী ধর্মলোক ছিলেন, উনি কুসংস্কার মানতেন না।
1980, Mrinal Sen went back to to the era of famine. Perhaps his best film the audience could see, Akaler Shandane, a film within a film. City's cinema unit is going to the village to make a film on 1943 famine.
বাবু রয়েছেন আকালের ছবি তুলতে, আকাল তো আমাদিকে সপ্তাঙ্গে।
With 1943 famine, this film also is linked with 1953, 1958 and even 1971 famine.
ছবি দেখে আমি বলবো ও লাইনে আমি নেই। আকার ওই 1943 বলবো 1959.
Apart from Bengali and Hindi cinema, Mrinal Sen has made Oriya and Telugu films, and they were completely exceptional initiatives. To establish his self-confidence, he depicted the main characters of the story in a different style, in a different light.
What he wants is absolutely, he knows what he wants.
We were told to do whatever we wanted to do. Mamata and I were told whatever we wanted to do, and he watched it and then he said, okay, let's shoot this, and then he gave us some suggestions. He never made films like that. It was always changing.
কিরে চাকরি করিস এখানে?
হ্যাঁ।
কত মাইনে পাস?
15 টাকা। আর মালিক খুশি হলে বকশিশ দেয়। আর দুবেলা খেতে দেয়।
In these three films, Mrinal Sen is not angry, not loud. He raises fingers towards Bengali middle class. He drags them in front of a mirror and exposes their so-called civilized garb. Middle class hypocrisy is blatantly exposed. Crisis emerges out of the situations, and in a short span, conflicts compel the characters to face a critical situation. A motif of a building built with poor quality material appears on the screen time and again, as if the poor exterior of the house is exposing the inner soul of the residents. Mrinal Sen's most trusted collaborator was his wife, Geeta Sen. Mrinal Sen had a collaborator whom he trusted implicitly with his filmmaking process, his wife and actor Geeta Sen. Mrinal Sen has been awarded with several national and international prizes. The world cinema has always hailed his cinematic artistry. He was an active participant of cinematic movement and cultural movement. He believed that politics, culture, language of people were the documents of cinema. All his life, he stuck to his belief, philosophy, ideas, and deep social consciousness. Mrinal Sen is to hate adulation. That's why he was exceptional. He constantly questioned him. He was never ever had any infatuation towards his own creations. Mrinal Sen should be found in dialectics, in his constant self-deception, in people's compassion.
I always wanted to work with him, and he would often tell me that, "Hey, amra ekshonge kaj korbo," which never really was happening. And then one day he called me and told me about a film that he was working on. You know, we'll do whatever we have to. You know, pay me peanuts, pay me nothing, but we have to do this film.
Mrinal Sen's last film, Amar Bhuvan, opens with a still image of a young girl, clearly suffering malnutrition, holding a child in her arms. The camera pauses and capital letters. The world is breaking up, burning, disintegrating. Still, men live here in love, compassion, and empathy.
এই আকালের দিনে সব ভাঙে, তোর কত ভাঙে না কেন?